Well, hello and welcome to Frame.io Live. My name is Ryan. I'm an enterprise customer success manager based in New York, and today I am going to be taking you through Get to Know Frame.io version 4. I have a really great agenda for you today. We are going to do a complete end-to-end overview of everything Frame.io. But before we hop in, a couple of quick items. We are recording today's session, so if you signed up today, you will receive a recording after we are completed today. And every previously recorded session is also available on our YouTube page. They're all previously recorded and accessible there. I will also be using the comment section as we go along today to drop in the chat a couple of support articles. We also have an e-learning hub that I will make available to you all. So keep an eye on that comment section as we go along. Some of those support articles will be helpful. You could bookmark them or share them with your team to access at a later date. But speaking of that comment section, we are completely live. So if you have any questions as we go along today, feel free to drop them in the chat. Certainly makes it a little bit more fun as we're engaging. And I also want to make sure that I can address any questions that you have as we go along over the course of today. This is a little bit more of an entry-level session. Eric, what's going on? Happy to have you on the call. Thank you. I'm the best. Wow, I'll take it. Thank you, Eric. Good to have you on today. But our agenda for today, like I said, we're doing a complete end-to-end overview. It is a little bit more of an introductory type session where we're going to chat a little bit about account settings, user roles, adding and removing users. Of course, we'll chat about how you can actually organize your content, including in workspaces and projects. We'll talk about uploading your content and the entire commenting and annotating process. We have a energy drink campaign that's actually built into my Frame.io instance. So we'll see what it could look like to do an end-to-end review process, including sharing out content externally with a stakeholder, perhaps. We'll also chat about a couple of features that are new to Frame.io version 4 that I think will make your life a bit easier, including metadata and collections. So a new way that you can actually organize your content. Also talk about transcriptions. So a brand new feature that will enable you to actually see transcriptions associated with assets. We'll also chat about text markup, which is a new PDF feature, some pretty cool stuff coming down the pipeline here at Frame. And then, like I mentioned, we'll chat about external sharing as well, how you can have others view content that you want to share with them. I'm going to share, just getting started, a support article that just outlines what it looks like to get started. This article has a ton of really great resources, including everything that we'll cover today. I also wanted to share an e-learning hub with you all too. This is a great resource that has some walkthroughs and some videos that were created by our teams just to make it a little bit easier if you're getting started as well, or maybe you're brand new to Frame. Hopefully this is a helpful frame of reference, no pun intended. And lastly, the last thing I do want to share you with, it actually exists in the e-learning hub, is a Premiere Pro demo and overview. It's only about 4 minutes long. We actually won't be covering that in today's session, but maybe we will in future sessions. So keep an eye on our Frame.io Live website where we update all of these sessions that we have. That's feedback I've gotten in the past, so maybe we could integrate that as part of this session as well. All right. But like I said, please ask questions as we go along. I'm here to help support, want to make sure that I can address any questions that you all might have, no matter what it may be pertaining to Frame. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hop right in. You are welcome to follow along with me here, or you could pull up your own instance of Frame.io. We are completely web-based, so I'm just here under next.frame.io. You can also access it under app.frame.io. Either way, you can access that here. We do have a couple of external ways that you can access Frame as well, including directly through a Premiere Pro integrated panel. My colleague Becca walks through that in the video that I just shared. But you also can access Frame via iOS app, so either on iPhone or iPad, you can access Frame there. If you've upgraded to Frame.io version 4, it will automatically reflect that within your iOS app, whatever that may be. Cool. Let's chat a little bit about organization, exactly what we're looking at. I do want to start by just outlining workspaces. What are they and what's the benefit of them? So right here on the left-hand side, you can see I have a couple of workspaces: marketing, Ryan's team. Let's create a new one, and let's call this one winter campaign. It is very hot and humid here in New York, but we're dreaming of cooler days and maybe a couple projects we're working on that are coming down the pipe in about 6 months. So by creating a new workspace, it's going to create a new location here on my homepage where then I can create projects within it. The benefit of these workspaces is that I can then separate it out based on the various campaigns that I'm working on. Additionally, I can select then which users I actually want to be a part of my space. So it helps keep my content organized, but also ensures that the right people can only see specific content that I invite them into. So you can see here under my Ryan's team, I have my drip ad project. If I was to invite a user into Ryan's team, they by default will have access to every single project within this workspace. Alternatively, I can just invite users in at the project space. I'll showcase all of that. But as you're getting started, it could be important to ask, do I need to organize my content strictly just based on campaign? Or would it be more advantageous to organize my content based on which users actually need access? So, important questions to ask. If you are an enterprise customer, you can create as many workspaces as you would like. That's enterprise benefit, especially if you're working at scale. Maybe you have hundreds of users that are going to be accessing the platform. That's a great way to be able to just begin some of that organizational process. Before we go further, I do want to discuss users. So let's say I do want to invite somebody into my winter campaign. Over here on the right-hand side, this little icon where it has two people, if you click on that, you're going to get a pop-up. You can see here I already have a couple of users that are invited into my space, but I then can invite users in via email. So let's say I want to invite my boss, Layla. I can invite Layla in here, and I can send a little message. Welcome to this workspace, for example. By doing so, Layla is then going to receive an email that Layla's been invited into my workspace. By default, Layla will then have access to every single project here. However, I also can determine exactly what level of access I want my users to have. I don't know if you saw, but there's this little purple check mark here. I did invite Layla in as a full access user. That means that Layla can manage resources within the workspace, can upload, can share, can see everything. There's also the option to add a user as edit and share, edit, comment only, or view only. So there's a good amount of nuance to these user roles, depending on exactly what you need these folks to do. Maybe you have a couple of freelancers. Well, all you want them to be able to do is just comment on content, but they'll see everything. That's totally up to you. All of these users do occupy a license. However, anybody that I share content with externally does not occupy a license. So it could be important to ask as well. Do I actually need somebody to have access to my content, or do I just need them to view the content that I've shared with them? I'm going to drop in the chat now an article that just walks through user roles and permissions. This is a really helpful article, especially if you're getting started. It actually breaks it down specifically on what each of these members have the ability to do. All right. We'll revisit our winter campaign here in just a bit, but let's chat a little bit about settings. So I'm going to click down here where it says RA, that just stands for Ryan's account. If you have multiple instances of Frame.io, so let's say maybe you're in an enterprise account, but you also have a free account, you'll actually see that here. We call that the account switcher. You could determine which account you want to access, but can use the same login credentials. You can also adjust the theme. It can be either light or dark. That is up to you. I prefer the dark theme. I saw a funny tweet the other day where somebody said something was in light mode and it made them want to cry. I like the dark mode. It looks quite nice. But let's go ahead and hop into settings. All right. I would encourage your users to at least add in their name and their photo. Your users will all have access to the profile section here. There are two member roles that I haven't highlighted yet because it pertains to these settings. The first is the account owner. The account owner does have full access across all workspaces, projects, and content. Next, there is a content admin. They have access to all the workspaces and projects, but they don't actually have the ability to access these settings. So you can allocate somebody as a content admin so that way they have visibility, they can add in users, but they actually control the users as opposed to the settings, the global settings, which we are going to hop into now. So this will just apply to our account owners. Every user, however, will be able to adjust their own notifications. Starting with email notification frequency, there's a couple of different types of notifications that users can receive. This digest just pertains to a summary or consolidation of actions that occur within your account. Especially if you're working at scale, you would see a lot of emails anytime an action occurred. So users have the ability to adjust ranging anywhere from 5, 15, hourly, daily, or never notifications, where they'll receive a digest of actions that occurred within their account. Alternatively, users can get a little bit more specific comments. Users can receive notifications when general comments occur, when comment replies occur, or app mentions. Each of these can be customized, whether it's in-app, via email, or via push notification, whatever you see fit. Same thing goes for assets. Users can receive either in-app notifications, email, or push notifications for asset actions, like when content is uploaded, when other individuals upload content, when the status changes. Let's say somebody assigned something to you in Frame, users can adjust that. And then transcription activity as well. That's a new feature that users can receive settings for. Okay. Usage. We'll just give you a general overview of all of the overview of members and storage within your account. This can be a great place just to get a high level check. Am I actually in line with my allocated license amount? You can see here members, reviewers, storage, archival projects, and workspaces. Archival does not exist within V4. However, if you upgraded from a V3 account, you may still have some archival content which you can flip over, but that will be reflected right here. Plan and billing will be applicable if you're on one of our retail plans, like a Pro or a Teams account. From there, you can adjust your billing details or change your plan type. Users. The Users, Workspaces, and Projects tab can be managed if you are on a Frame managed account, meaning you're not a part of an Adobe contract. So if you're on an ETLA, if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. That just means that your account is actually managed by Adobe, meaning you'll have access to the Adobe admin console. So there may be a banner up here at the top that says users have to be managed within the admin console. That would change this experience a little bit. However, I still want to go through because users can be organized from here. You can see here that I have a list of users, including a couple of pending users, but this tab will enable me to then see which users have accepted an invite that I've sent them. I can see their last activity date, which I can sort by, so that could certainly help me to determine, do I need to remove one of these users? I can also see their join date and their current status. I can filter it out as well to see which users are a part of which workspace or project. I can even separate it out based on the account role. I can also invite in new users here. So remember, I did add in Layla from my homepage, but let's say that there's somebody else that I want to add in, I certainly can do so. Let's say that I want to invite in my colleague Rachel. I can send Rachel an invite. Again, I can add in a message. This won't actually add Rachel anywhere within my account quite yet. I'll still have to allocate Rachel somewhere else within my space. This just sends an initial invite, and then I can invite Rachel into either the workspace or an individual project. Let's go ahead and invite in Rachel now. Groups. This pertains to creating a group of users. So, I just added Rachel in via just her email. But let's say that I know that I have a same group of editors that I am going to be adding in to specific spaces. I could add in April, Jacob, and Rachel, who are my editors, in a group. That means that every time I want to just add in those editors into a workspace or a project, I just type in editor team as opposed to typing in their individual email addresses. Just a little quick tip to save you some time. Workspaces. This tab looks pretty similar to our users tab, where I could click on a specific workspace, and then I can get a breakdown of which projects and members are occupying that workspace and how much storage is occupying that space as well. I can also filter out based on the users that are associated with which each individual workspace. And projects, same thing. I can filter out where I can see which users, which workspaces. I also can see recently deleted projects. By clicking into an individual project, like my short edits, where we're going to be spending some time together today, I can also see how many assets are associated, how much storage, and I can also adjust the status. I can also go directly to that location within the app. This is also where I have the ability to delete projects. Branding. This might look different depending on your account type. But from here, I can adjust the name of my account and the logo. Remember, that was that little account switcher that we were just in. This tab here for shares actually pertains to when I'm sharing out content externally. You can see that I've adjusted this. It's purple, which matches my Frame.io colors, but I can add in a logo or a header. I also can adjust any of the accent color, and this then will match any custom branding when I share out content externally. So you could have this match your own internal branding. Perhaps you could even adjust this to match that of a client that you're working with, so it matches their branding. This is default again for any shares that are created within the account. Yeah. And content security. Some of these settings might apply to you. They might be grayed out or not available. Just depends on your contract type. Starting with some of these sharing settings, though, this is all, again, when we share content out externally. You can require a passphrase on public shares. There's two different types of share links you could send out. One is public. The other is called secure sharing. That just means that the user needs to sign into a free Frame.io account or a paid one before they can actually view any content that you've shared with them. That just ensures that the only user that could see it is the one whose email address it's sent to. You can use public shares, meaning that I could just copy and paste that link and share it out to anybody, but I can require a passphrase anyway, so just one level of security there. I also can set a default share expiration date, so I can adjust the date here. So let's say 1 week from now is the default that I want for all share links. I can adjust that. I also can allow or disallow downloads by default on a share link. So do I actually want stakeholders to be able to download the content I've shared with them? Yes or no, that can be applied here. Secure sharing. I know that I mentioned that this requires that a user signs into a Frame.io account, but you can take it a step deeper and even add in an authorized email domain. So for example, I only want users with the email address adobe.com to access my content. I can apply that here just by clicking on this option. I also can require secure sharing. Again, those users need to sign into a free account. That is a requirement that can be enabled here. And I can create a default. So by default, do I want users to be able to create public links, or is it always going to be secure? Let's keep it public. And watermark. Watermark can be required on internal assets. I would say it's not as popular of an option. However, if you're working on a black box project, perhaps a good idea to leverage requiring that watermark on internal assets. It does burn it in. So even if you download it, we'll have that watermark still applied. But you also can apply a watermark on shares, external shares. Let's go ahead and create a template together. So let's create a new template. Let's call it Winter Project. And you can see that there's a handful of options to choose from. If you are not on an enterprise plan, I believe you can just do the name and the email address of a specific user. But if you have watermarking as part of an enterprise plan, you also can adjust IP address, date and time, and the custom creator text. I can also adjust the opacity, the rotation of that specific text. And I also can adjust the text size, the color, or even have it scroll. So if I wanted this to be huge, I could, and then I can move it around on the screen. Let's keep this one small for now, maybe keep it up here in the top left corner. Additionally, I can add a secondary text block. Let's have this one here and scrolling on the screen. Right now, watermarking is just text-based, so these are the adjustments that could be made, including adding a text shadow or adjusting the color. All right, so we just created a template. This template can now be applied at the time of external sharing by my users. Any questions about these settings, please let me know. Let's go ahead and move on actually to some of the meat of how you can organize your content and ways that you could create projects and uploading. But like I said, any questions or Eric, I'll take some more praise moving forward. All right. Let's talk about projects. So you can see here I have a couple of projects. However, I do want to show you that you could adjust how you actually view your content here in either list or thumbnail format. You also can filter out based on active or inactive projects. The benefit here being that all these projects here are marked inactive, I can move them back to active, but it's essentially a separate bucket for you to just keep your account organized. So maybe you worked on a project that you finished up 6 months ago, but you still want to hold on to it just in case the client reaches out to you again. You can make that project inactive, so it's hidden from this home screen. Still occupies space, but just another way to view only the most currently relevant projects to you. So you can filter it out to view just the current active projects, which I have done now. But you can click on these three dots and you can mark them as inactive if desired. And of course, I can sort my content based on the name, date created status, or based on the naming convention. Let's create a new project. There's a handful of templates that our team has created here on the left-hand side, ranging from digital video production, location scouting, casting and auditions. By clicking into one of these templates, you could see that there's a couple of metadata fields and collections and folders that already exist. If you're brand new to Frame, I would encourage you to include some sample content so that way you could see how an organizational structure could function. Alternatively, you could just start from scratch. You can upload your own photo associated with a project, or one will automatically be created for you if you don't apply one. Let's create one called casting photos, and I can make a project restricted, just meaning that users will need to be invited again. But by creating a new project, it's just going to be listed under this home screen. I'm going to click home on the left-hand side. You can see that that's now going to show right here. And now I can just upload content within that project. Right now, the only person who has access to this is Layla. I've only given Layla access to this workspace and project. All the other users will only see content that's applied for them on this homepage. But from here, I now can upload content. I can click this plus button up in the top and I can upload a folder or an asset. I can drag and drop from my desktop or elsewhere, or I can just click upload right here in the middle. Let's go ahead and choose our casting photos here. These are a whole bunch of PNG files that I want to upload. We can go through them for some headshots. I'm uploading some PNGs. I do want to draw your attention over here to the left-hand side where it's going to give me a breakdown of all the content that I've uploaded in the past. And I also can go directly to this location on my project just by clicking on it. I know that I didn't upload video content, but if I did, the original files would still be imported and saved into Frame. So that way you have access to the original if you need to download it or send it to somebody else. But we do always transcode and create lightweight web and mobile friendly proxy versions of your content. So that way you can play it back from anywhere you have access to Frame. Maybe you're at the airport, maybe you're on set and the internet is poor. You could certainly drop it down a proxy. All of that is available automatically. You don't have to do anything. When we hop into a player page on a project, I'll show you how you can select a proxy version for you. But now that I have my content organized here, I can create a new folder. I'm just doing a 2-finger click. From here, I could create a new folder, and maybe I want to separate it out based on some of my favorites. I can do that. So let's say I really like these first 4. I can drag and drop them. Alternatively, I can select an asset, and I can use the copy to, move to, or duplicate. If I copy it, it will just create a separate version that will exist separately. So if you leave comments on one, it won't on the other, but just into a new location. If I was to move it, it would move that asset with any comments associated or duplicate. Again, I could just create a second version, but exists right here. So let's say I actually want to move this asset. You can see down here on the left, it's going to determine, do I want to do it here or do I even want to do it in a different project space? I have the option to do that. So I can move content around however I see fit. I do want to highlight that there's a new option for restricted folders. It has this little lock icon. So let's say I want to restrict this even for individuals that are invited into my project. Let's call this one restricted. Even though Layla's in here, if I open up this folder, you could see that Layla still doesn't have access. It's completely restricted. I can give Layla access or anybody else that I see fit, but I, as the content admin, will have sole access to this. But I can move projects in here. So let's say I invited somebody in as a member. They would see everything else but this restricted folder. So just a good way to be able to parcel out and stay organized with your content. Any questions about uploading or organizing your content? Please let me know. I'm going to click on the home button in the top left corner. We're going to spend some time in this short edits project. I just want to give you a brief tour too of exactly what you're looking at. From here, you can see the home screen, a search bar, any notifications, whatever your settings might be, are applied here. And then, of course, the ability to select your uploads. This panel view here will give you a folder tree, so you could actually move and organize your content. You could even move it around if you would like. But this is a good way to be able to just at a high level overview, see all the content that's associated with your account. Collections, we'll get to this in just a bit, but collections will go hand in hand with metadata content. So you can actually create a collection based off of metadata. I'll showcase that in a bit. And then right down here are all of your share links. So anything that you've shared out externally. I would also like to highlight that there's an option down here for C2C connections. That stands for camera to cloud connections. So you can actually sync up hardware with Frame.io, meaning that the second you call cut, you could have content automatically drop into your Frame account. It's quite cool. Up here in the top, though, you can adjust the appearance of how you view your content, either in thumbnail or list view. You also can change the card size, the aspect ratio, tiles, and show all the card info associated. Fields, again, this is the metadata fields that I was referring to. We'll get to that in a bit. And then you can sort your content based on any of these metadata fields. So name, custom, date uploaded, the file type, etc. Up here in the top right corner, I also can change what we call the panel view. So this panel right here, the first one, has the folder tree, collections, and share links applied. So if you don't want to see those, you can hide them. I'm just clicking up here in the top right corner. Alternatively, I can break out the panel a little bit further to the right. So let's say I want to go through my assets quickly. I'm just using the arrow keys now, but I can see then my folder tree, all my assets and folders, and then each individual asset a little bit larger. I can also take it a step deeper and break out this third panel view, where then right here on my homepage, I can see my asset, see that asset a little bit larger, being able to play or view it. And I also can see any comments associated here on the right-hand side. So I don't have to click into an asset in order to view whatever comments have been left with it. A pretty cool way to just stay organized at a high level overview. Let's open up our footage here. Well, before we do so, actually, this is our final deliverable, and we're going to deploy this to social media. Sweet. So we have our energy drink campaign drip. What a final or beautiful final deliverable that we are going to be deploying. However, let's work our way backwards. How did we get there? And how did we use Frame to do it? So let's open up this footage folder here. You can actually see that there's a whole bunch of assets here that we used as part of our final deliverable. So, we had this shot that's in slow motion. We used a portion of this specifically in that final cut. All right. We also have our runner here who's doing some jump roping. That was also in our final deliverable. How do we stay organized? How do we leave comments? And how did we get where we got? All right. So looking at this asset, we see running up the stairs here. We also see this one running up the stairs. This one's just zoomed in a little bit more. These two are very similar or like assets. You can see that I already have some comments associated. Let's say that we wanted to keep these two assets together because we know that we just edited it from version 1 to version 2. As opposed to having to send an email saying, here's version 1, here's version 2, there's a feature that exists called version stacking. So I could take one asset, drag and drop it over the next. You can see here that it's going to now indicate with this little V2, meaning that there's two assets that are associated as what we call a version stack. This is one of my favorite features, but I can open up this version stack, and up here at the top, I can then determine, do I want to see version 1 or version 2? Or do I just want to compare these two side by side? And by clicking play, it is going to play them in tandem. So this gives me the ability to not only keep all of my versions together, but also be able to view them side by side to see any adjustments that have been made. I know it's a little faint on the display here, but there's this purple line. This indicates that this is the audio that I'm selecting, so I can A/B test between version 1 or version 2. I can, of course, add additional versions to the stack if desired. So let's say I want to add a version 3. By continuing to add these versions, I then can compare them side by side or select which version I want to look at. Of course, I can adjust this version stack. So I'm just going to do a right finger click here, and I'm going to go back to manage versions. I can then move them around and organize them how I see fit, or remove versions from this stack. Yep, pretty cool. I then can share out this version stack for review. So I could share out this entire stack if desired. We'll do that in a bit. Let's talk a little bit about the player page though. How do I actually want to leave comments and what am I looking at? So anytime you open up an asset here, we actually use this as part of our final deliverable as well. Anytime I view an asset, I do have the option down here for play, pause, loop, change the playback speed or the audio. For our editors out there, I can also adjust the time format from frame, standard, or timecode. And then down here in the bottom right, this option for anchored comments is a feature in a comment type that I can leave. I also can adjust a whole bunch of settings, including the proxy versions, like I was speaking about earlier. So I could bump this down. Let's say my internet's really bad. I can make adjustments here. I also can apply a guide, like maybe what it would look like within social media, for example. Let's remove that for now. But I also have the option to set something as a thumbnail or download a still. So both of those exist right here if you want to download a still of an asset. You see here that this still is now downloaded right up here in my downloads folder. And I can snag it or do something with it at a later date. All right, but let's actually talk about the different types of comments that could be left, excuse me, that I can leave. I can leave just a static comment so I can indicate somewhere here on my timeline. But not only can I do that, but I could leave a range-based comment so I can indicate a specific period of time. I can at mention a member, so I can tell somebody directly that I want to leave feedback for them. They'll receive a notification. I also can leave an annotation, like I could draw somewhere or leave an arrow. I can leave a hashtag comment, so it's easier for me to sort through my comments at a later date. I also can leave an anchored comment, so I can drop a pin to a specific location. And I can also upload a file. So let's go through all those different types of comments that I can leave together, and I'll showcase how you can use this tool. All right. So let's say I just want to leave a comment over here and say, can we edit this out? And maybe I want to be a little bit more specific. Also, I don't know if you saw, but as soon as I started typing, it automatically paused on my timeline. So can we edit this out? What am I talking about? The first part. Well, that's still not very clear. So let's go ahead and leave what we call a range-based comment. So I can drag and drop a specific portion. So I'm actually referring to this portion to this portion. If I want to get specific as well, I can hold down the shift key, which will give me even more of a timecode specificity. But let's say we just want to edit out this part. I can click send, and then you can see that my little photo, and there's a white line indicating that this is the portion that I was referring to as part of this comment. Maybe we do want to download something as a still and use it later. I also can leave just a single comment and say, can we download a still? And the answer to that is of course. But let's go ahead and select that. I do want to draw your attention over here on these comments. If I click on a comment, it's going to take me to that portion on the timeline and highlight it. So you can always see who left that comment, and just makes it a little bit easier to sort through them. So in our supercut, we only had like a quarter of a second long. Let's say that I really like this shot here. We have these rays of light coming through, but the sky in the background looks a little washed out. Maybe we want it to be a little bit brighter. I can leave a comment. Let's leave a hashtag for our VFX team. You can see that I've used this in the past. It's going to keyword that comment for me. I'm saying, can we brighten up the background and make the sky more blue? We want it to pop a bit more. I know it's a quick cut, but let's go ahead and leave an annotation. If you saw, I'm just clicking on this little paintbrush option. I can choose pink, yellow, green, orange. Let's make it green so it stands out a little bit more. And I can draw an arrow, I can draw a line, a box, or a freehand. Let's draw an arrow for now. And this is the portion that I'm referring to right back here. We want to make the sky more blue. All right. I think that's enough arrows. I hope so. And then clicking send. By clicking on this asset, it's then going to reveal these annotations associated for me, so you can get really specific about various portions that you're referring to. Let's say I want to leave an at mention to somebody. Let's say that I want to at mention April. And I'm going to ask a question. What do you think about this portion for the final? And maybe I don't want anybody else to see it. I also can leave just an internal comment, meaning that only individual users that have a license will be able to see those comments. Cool. So I left a couple of different comments here, and it does reorganize my comments, even if I'm bumping around here, but based on timeline is how they are currently sorted. I then have the option to leave an anchored comment. Let's say I want to grab this anchored comment here. I can drop it anywhere on my screen and leave a comment. Maybe we want to use a different final deliverable that has a voiceover at some point. Maybe I could say, do we have the script for the voiceover? And I can send that, and then it's going to indicate this is the exact portion that I was referring to as well. I've especially seen this used for PDFs or JPEGs. And then the last type of comment that I could leave is I can upload a file. So not only can I go here and click on uh, the little attach files option, and I can upload a file there, but I also can reply directly back to a comment. So reply back, and I can attach a file. So let's say I have the voiceover script right here. I can select that and I can click send. So I can actually reply back directly to comments. So this entire comment section is rather dynamic. It gives me the ability to sort based on public or internal comments. I can also filter out based on the type of comment, person, hashtag, etc. I can also search for various comments. So I can look for keywords like VFX, or over here on the top right, I can click on these three dots. I can copy and paste these comments onto a different asset. I can export them like to Final Cut, Media Composer, Resolve. I also can export them out to a CSV file. But let's say I want to print these comments. It's actually just going to open up a PDF where we'll have the comments listed with a thumbnail. So it gives you a full audit trail listed right here of all of the comments that have been associated with your asset. Pretty cool. Questions about commenting or annotating, searching for comments, or using this comment section like a checklist, please let me know. I do want to showcase some additional comments that you could leave maybe on a PDF, for example. Let's go to our pitch deck review. All right, check it out. We got a PDF here, which is Frame.io for video production and marketing teams. Cool. This was originally written in April of 2023. Well, that won't do. Let's go ahead and leave a text-based comment. So let's go back here to our homepage where we want to leave our comment. And I want to highlight a specific text portion. Different than video assets, there's an option for text suggestions, which is listed right here, which gives me the ability to highlight any text so I can add comments or draw attention to that specific text. I also have the ability to insert new text, delete text, suggest a replacement, and of course I can export just like I did with my asset just now. But let's go ahead and make a suggestion. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this text, April 2023, and here are these various options: highlight, insert, remove, or replace. Let's go ahead and replace this with July 2025 and click send. You can then see that my suggestion will then add a text markup and will be applied on this comment over here. So you can use this text-based markup in your pre-production process for PDFs. It's also the ability to use this anchored comment that I know we mentioned earlier. It looks like there's an annotation on one, but not on the other, which is kind of funky. So maybe we want to, you see here, I don't see an annotation there, but I see it there. So let's go ahead and go back here and put in an anchored comment. I don't see an edit on this screen. And click send. So you can see here that now I have that anchored comment, which will draw a specific location. Pretty cool. All right. I do want to highlight another new feature. This is called transcription. So I'm going to go over here to my video interviews. You can see here that this is a kind of a longer interview. All right. And let's say that I want to take this video and I want to actually see a transcript of it. I'm going to go down here to the bottom right corner and I'm going to click this option for transcript. You can see here like magic, this transcript is going to show up right here on the left-hand side. When I click play, you can see it's bumped to a different portion. It's going to highlight the text that's associated with the interview. And if you could see here too, it says unknown speaker. This transcript option does have the ability to organize out your content based on who is speaking. So you can determine between speaker that's still in beta, but you can generate a transcript for either audio or video assets. I'm going to mute this, but still want to highlight how this transcription works. You can search for specific text. So even if I wanted to go back up into this transcript and look for a keyword, I could do so. I also can select text associated with the transcript to create a range-based comment for really precise feedback. There's also automated closed captioning. This is available both for web and iOS. So you can generate that closed captioning based on that transcript. You also can bulk process. So you can select multiple assets. That's in the Finder. I'll show the case that. So you can actually generate transcripts for all of your assets all at once. Something you could do too is you can also export. I just clicked on the three dots in either SRT, VTT, or TXT format. And there's support in 18 different languages. So pretty cool. Let's say I want to search for a keyword here. Let's say sprinter. I can then find that keyword and it will showcase here. And again, if I was to highlight this portion, I can then leave a comment associated with it. I just said I like this clip, but then by clicking on that comment, it's going to take me directly to that location in my transcript. Let's go back to our video interviews. And the bulk upgrade option, or update. If I was to select all these assets, I can click generate transcript. And here you can see that it's going to select the language and label speakers. Is that between A or B? By clicking transcribe, we're going to consent, and then it's going to generate those transcripts for me. Pretty cool. All right. Let's talk a little bit about metadata and collections and then external sharing. So you can see here that there's a couple of different metadata tags that are already applied to my assets. Final asset, rating, release platform, scene, or status. There are 33 out of the box fields, but I have 37 because I've actually created some of my own custom text. But by clicking on these assets, you can see that it's going to automatically apply these metadata fields as well. I can create a new field though. So let's say you have your own specific approval process with your own internal language that you use. I can do approval process, and then I can select between single, multi, date, rating, a person, multiple people, toggle number, or single line text. So let's say I want single select and add various options. Approved, let's make it green. Awaiting approval from Layla. Let's keep that one yellow. Canceled maybe. And let's create a maybe option. All right, so you can see here that I have now my own approval process with this individual dropdown where I can apply. So I can choose awaiting approval from Layla, approved, maybe. Let's put this one also in waiting approval from Layla. So then based on these metadata fields, I can create a collection that will then pull in those metadata fields automatically. So let's create a new collection. I then have the option to customize how I view this. The benefit of that is that then I can customize it for external sharing. But let's first determine, where do I want to pull assets from? Let's say we want to pull it from everywhere. I can then adjust the logo here, like a star maybe. And let's call this one approved by Layla. Actually, all right, let's change this one. I can also adjust a header where I can add a small, medium, or large header. I also can add in my own background image, or I can change it and select one of our defaults. Let's just select default for now. But then I can use this metadata field filter to determine which metadata field I want to use. Let's use approval process is awaiting approval from Layla. And let's say that Layla goes in and she approves these. We could then flip it back to approved. So you can use this however you see fit. So let's change these back to approved. And then you're actually going to see that this option, approved by Layla, is going to auto adjust based on if it matches this criteria anymore. Another example is this 5-star assets here. You can actually see that there's a grouping where the grouping is based on the file type. So audio, PDF, vector, video, or let's even look at our final assets. I don't know if you can see here, but the final assets are grouped based on release platform. Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube. And select this. Let's change this one to TikTok. But then I can look at these final assets and you can see that it's actually going to filter out where the two filters are final asset is checked yes, and the group is the metadata field of release platform. So you can really use these collections however you see fit, based on person, based on file type, based on your own approval process. There's a ton of options that you could use this for. I've seen it used in many different use cases. Really powerful tool. But then I can also send out this collection for external sharing. So let's say approved by Layla. I actually want to share this out with Layla. I can share. And then you can see here that I have a whole bunch of different options for how I want to customize this link. So do I want the link to be public or secure? You're going to get these questions anytime you generate a link, unless the defaults are set in the global settings. Let's keep this one public for now. But I also can determine the layout. Do I want it to be in grid, which is what we're looking at now, in list format, which just gives me a full breakout, or in real, which you could see is going to actually auto adjust based on my sharing settings that I adjusted way earlier in the session. I also can add a passphrase, an expiration date. I can apply a watermark, so passphrase, and then I could type in my own, or if this is default, there's going to be a default option that's added. Expiration date, I can set date and time. I also can apply that watermark, maybe our winter project like we were discussing. And under permissions, I can determine, do I want users to be able to leave comments? Yes or no? Do I want users to be able to download? Yes or no? This one doesn't even allow me to because that default. Do I want to show all versions? Do I want to show available transcripts? Do I want to show captions? I also can adjust some of the feature fields. So do I want to adjust the specific status? Do I want users to be able to adjust some of these? Do I want them to adjust the visible fields? Yes or no? So in opening up this field, this is exactly what these users are going to see. I have my watermark applied. Users can comment. However, I don't have the ability to download. So all of that is applied right here. Something that's neat about this as well is I can go back and I can adjust my criteria. So let's go ahead and adjust this. This one's now awaiting approval from Layla. If I go back over into this share link and I refresh, you can see that actually other assets have been updated because the metadata field had been updated just by refreshing the screen. So those users don't even need to receive a new link. Pretty cool. All right. So I did just generate a share link based on a collection. However, you can see a list of all of your share links right down here. So by clicking on all share links, I'm going to get a breakdown of all of my links with a link available. You can also turn it off. So if you don't want people to see it, you can see if it's public or secure. You can see how many people have viewed it by clicking on view activity as well. It's going to showcase who viewed it and what date and time, who created it, and the date created. But I can also create a share link based on a folder. So by doing a two-finger click, I can create a share link or add to an existing share link. I also have the ability to create a share link just by clicking on this plus button right here. You can see here that it's going to default based on the date, but then I can drag and drop content also into that share link. So a whole bunch of different ways that you're able to share out externally. Remember, anytime you share a link out, those users do not occupy a license that doesn't take up space, just enables those users to see all the actions that had occurred, unless, of course, there's a restricted folder, restricted or internal comment associated. Users will not actually be able to see that. I need enterprise for all these integrations. There's tons. Enterprise is certainly a great way to go if you're looking to uh, up or scale up, or if you have some specific security needs. All right, we're coming to the end of our session. So thank you all for your engagement today. But a couple of things I want to leave you with. Down here in the bottom left corner, there is an option to contact our support team. We do have a support team that's available 24/7, so these people can help answer some questions or at least direct you in the right place. So if you get stuck or you have questions, give us a shout. There's also an option to submit a feature request. So as you're playing around, maybe you say, I wish that this button was there, or I wish that this was integrated. Please give us a description here. Our team goes through it daily. We value your feedback, please. Of course, we want to make the platform better, which as you're working every day, stumble across things that, that we certainly are working to build and integrate. There's also an option down here for keyboard shortcuts. If you feel passionately about saving some time, I would implore you to take a peek here. I've used a couple today, but that applies to the player page, to just navigating your instance of Frame.io. It's all available right down there. The last thing I want to leave you with is just a help page that has a ton of articles. So if you have any additional questions, please refer there, but you always can reach out to our support team. I'm not seeing any other questions come through, so I will leave it there for today. But on behalf of our entire team, thank you for letting us be a part of your creative process. As we're continuing to develop and evolve Frame.io version 4, we'd again love to hear your feedback. So any questions that you have, please let us know. But I'll be right back here again next week leading another session. Like I said, I might integrate some Premiere Pro stuff in the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out. But I hope to see you again soon. If you did sign up for today's session, you'll see this pre-recorded. You can access this at any time. Thank you again. I hope to see you all later. Deanna, thank you. Thanks for joining today. Again, thanks for letting us be a part of your creative process. Until next time, take care.